Hi, I'm Rachel Olson, founder of Best Mom Products, where mompreneurs share their adventures in business. Today is the first interview in a series where I'll be interviewing experts to help educate entrepreneurs on starting a business. Today I'm talking with Angela Engel, sales rep of Dwell Studio and previous sales manager at Chronicle Books, where she contributed to 11% of their overall sales and led major category expansion, including several placements of children's books at Target. She's here with us today to help explain the role of a sales rep and what you need to be prepared with in order to approach retailers with your product. She has worked with hundreds of retailers from small boutiques to major mass market outlets. Does that sound about right, Angela?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, welcome. Thank you for doing the interview.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background, not only Chronicle Books, but you have a long history in publishing, and about Dwell Studio, what they are, what they do for people who don't know.
Okay, so I'll start with Dwell Studio. We are a design home furnishing line, and we actually started in 1999 in home furnishings, in bedding, top of bed, which is duvet covers and sheet sets. And we moved now into decorative pillows, into rugs, and as well as throws. And Christiane, our CEO and founder, she has a degree from Parsons School of Design, has 2 children of her own, lives in Soho, New York. And when she had children, also decided, hey, I do great bedding for the home. I should do it also for the nursery. We're modern, we're accessible. We believe that textiles can get dirty, which means that you're not going to spend $180 on a silk dress or blouse for your child, but you're really going to get something beautiful for about $34 and organic and easy to wash. And so that's sort of a lot of things we've really grown in baby. We do everything from layette to accessories and bedding. And right now I'm working with them and selling to specialty stores.
Great. Okay, so what does a sales rep do? What do you do day to day, and what's your main objective?
Okay, so well, day to day it varies. It really has a lot to do with what's happening in the marketplace, who honestly is needing my attention. Sometimes that's what it feels like in sales. So mostly it's really figuring out on a weekly basis, okay, these are my weekly goals. So my weekly goals might be, let's do some account examples. So my weekly goals this week might be to work with Whole Foods and work with Amazon and my top 10 small independent stores. And that's my week. Now, that is good in theory. However, maybe something happens to that you need to jump on with Costco. So it's always going to be a juggling act in similar ways. If it's like children, that you think it's going to go one way and then your week after actually went a different way. And I think that that's sort of like success in sales, is to always know that there's always a new day, that you did the best you did that day, and you helped these particular customers. So I tend to try to structure my day where I just write myself a list and say, okay, these are the 2 or 3 things I must get accomplished today. And then that might take me 4 hours. And then the other 4 hours are dedicated to whatever kind of things might come up within that day.
Okay, so your role as a sales rep for Dwell and then for previously Chronicle Books is basically as a sales manager to get the product or the brand that you're representing, their products, into stores.
Correct.
And then you organize your day or weeks depending on which customers you have and what their needs are. And what is that? So for Dwell right now, you handle, did you say we talked previously West Coast sales?
Yes, I do.
So how much can a sales rep handle? So if you're West Coast sales, how many clients are you calling on, or how many stores are you in? Can you share that information?
I think it really honestly varies on the product. So, now with Dwell Studio, I have an entire brand to sell. So I'm not really selling, okay, this is very different than book publishing. Book publishing, it might be an actual author series, but in many many cases, it's a one-off book, like for a children's book, and it's one piece, and it's going to live in the store for X amount of time, and then we're moving on to the next book. With Dwell, it's really selling a brand and how we're going to sell that brand. So it could be like a 3-year relationship. We're creating in the store a back wall of our entire brand of products, from bedding to accessories. So I think that it really varies for anybody what they're going to sell. Like, for example, if you're selling a brand right now, I feel like the West Coast makes a lot of sense, and I wouldn't be able to take on, for example, the Southeast, or even because in many ways I'm selling and continually want to make sure that the brand is going to have a lot of life within these stores. For example, it might be a large boutique down in LA that can do a lot of volume. I want to continually make sure that they're up with the next products.
Right. Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about the difference in working with, as a sales rep, when you're approaching a boutique versus like a big box store or a major mass retailer? What's the difference for somebody who's like an entrepreneur listening, who isn't a big brand like Dwell or Chronicle Books, and they're trying to get their product that's just one product into a store? How should they approach these stores?
Okay. Well, I think that, a big box retailer like a Target or a Costco is a very different animal than a small mom and pop. And so I think that you really need to understand and know the market, and does your product even make sense for that particular vendor? For example, if you want to try to sell to Target, you better walk all those Target stores, see how the packaging looks, see what's your competition, what are the price points. If you want to be in the boutiques, again, it's actually the same rule of thumb. Like, what are the price points? How is it packaged? Like, what also are they selling? And how does your particular product fit into that? So that's the first thing you really need to do before you approach any vendor, is to understand where your product fits with their customer. Because the best way to make a relationship with an account is for you to be trustworthy and to also understand their account, not just to say, oh, my product's the best in the world. Well, that tells me nothing. It's important. Why is your product the best in the world? That's what I would ask them. And then you would actually say, it's better to point out differences. For example, what is the material made out of? How is that different from what I'm already selling? What is let's take a bottle holder for a baby bottle.
Okay.
So is yours insulated? Okay. How is the technology? What is the design? All of those things will add up to, should yours be in place of another baby bottle? So those are the things that you need to ask yourself and be prepared to when you're approaching a vendor. It's really the differences versus it's the best in the world.
Right. So when somebody is perusing the aisles and they have this product and they're looking at the design and the packaging, should they be thinking, should my packaging look like this company? Like, if they're trying to approach a Target but they want to be in other big box stores, they can only do one design of packaging, correct? Or, they want to have one brand. So is it smart for them to decide, like, I'd rather be in a Costco than a Target, but what about, they don't even know what those differences are. So what's the reality, do you think, in dealing with, I know you have major brands, of getting your foot in the door to some of these major mass market retailers versus a boutique? Is it much easier for a new product to go into a boutique, do you think, or to go down the path of mass market and try to do every single thing, that these major retailers say to do?
I think it really, again, depends on the product, but I would say, like, let's say you're doing a series of clothing. I think, and let's say it's handmade. You really should be in a small boutique. You're not going to do these handmade clothing for mass market, right? Let's say you want your retails to be $50. You're not going to be in a mass market retail. So I think you, again, need to look at what are your margin goals? Like, and understand that like if you can create 3,000, 4,000 units of a product, take that risk and still make great margins and go after mass market, then you should do it. If you can do it at $10 an item. If that item needs to be $20, then you better actually instead think 300, 400 units, and I'm going to go after specialty boutiques, and I'm going to go after specialty high-end retailers like Anthropologie, Urban Outfitters. Think a little differently and outside the box. And maybe it's not a full mass market. I'm not going to go into grocery, but I'm going to find another specialty retailer like, maybe it's going to be, Cost Plus. Maybe that's a better place for my product.
Okay, so when you said that, you threw out the number 3,000 to 4,000. So is that the minimum, around that minimum number of units that somebody should be anticipating having produced if they approach a mass market retailer? Is there a rule of thumb?
No, I honestly just threw that number out.
Okay.
But I think you can be prepared. It depends on the store. And honestly, if I was going to approach mass market, I would always go in with tests. So, for example, you might want to say, okay, this is a great product, but it really regionally makes more sense for Texas than it would for California. So if I'm going to go after Costco, I'm going to really think about maybe talking with the buyer how we can test it in the South. And if it works off, then we can maybe expand it to other regions. I think that's the wonderful thing about Costco. And if we all know wherever we live, your Costco is a little bit different than the Costco in Southern California, your Northern California Costco, and same with the Minnesota Costco and Texas Costco. Costco is one of those retailers that does do great demographics. And so that would be an area where I'd say you're going to take less risk. And let's say you already had success at stores down in the South, or you know that this can work for you, then maybe that's how I would approach mass market. Or you do a random test. If you feel it's a national brand, then you do a random test with a mass market retailer like Costco, and you say, maybe we're going to test in 15 to 25 Costcos this product randomly, and then that random test will be able to tell if you want to take the risk of manufacturing quite a lot of product.
Okay, so that's interesting. Do you think that that's something, I know you have your experience with major brand names, is that something that a small wholesaler can approach a Costco with, and that would be, do you think, received well, or what are your thoughts on that?
Again, I think it really has to do, let's take a tangible product. So, for example, let's say they are in swimsuit wear. Mm-hmm. I think if you can prove to buyers are brilliant. I mean, some of the smartest people I have met are buyers. And so you're not going to try to pull the wool over their eyes and go, this is the best swimsuit in the world. You're going to instead tell them what is it about this particular swimwear that works. So, for example, it maybe has sunscreen built in. I don't know. And then maybe it is special Brazilian fabric. And it is a hot new trend that Angelina Jolie is into, and she brought this Brazilian bikini in Brazil. And yet you can make them for half the price, and they're really going to fly off the shelf. So okay. That is sort of what I think. If you have to, again, have a real goal in mind that it actually can really work.
Yeah, I think that this is good. The way the conversation is going is good. We started, I feel like, very big, and now I kind of want to simplify it to the people, for the entrepreneurs that are listening. Like, I think when we talked previously, you gave me some really good feedback on a few different things. One was, what cost should a startup be aware of when they're approaching? Like, how does a store order? And how does that whole process work? Okay,
so standard markup, like on toys, books, clothing. I mean, for a boutique, 50% markup. So you're gonna sell you want $11 for this item. and they want to sell it then for $22. I'm talking boutiques and specialty retailers, not mass market. So that's very easy, very to accomplish in terms of looking at a spreadsheet, putting in, this is what it costs me to make the product. This is what it costs to package the product. This is what it would cost me to ship the product. This is what it would cost me to basically any other marketing or time involved. And you create a little P&L, and at the end of the day, maybe you're comfortable with making 30 to 40%. So maybe after all those costs, it's $5 to you. You're going to sell it for, I don't know, $9, and they're going to sell it for $18.
Okay.
So that would be the simple math.
Okay. And then how does it work if the store wants to place an order then? What does the wholesaler need to be prepared with in order to approach a store? What types of materials, what types of, negotiations take place?
I think, again, it's a lot about so if it's going to be a straight cost, and let's say I'm going to take like a small boutique in Rockridge and I have a baby item, it's just a straight cost. So I've looked at your shelves, I've seen these great bottle holders, I see that you're selling them for $20, mine's $20 too, I'm going to sell it, mine's $10, you can sell it for $20. And if the buyer feels that the aesthetic will work for their store, I think that's pretty easy. They're going to send them a purchase order. That's a binding agreement, and they're going to fill a purchase order. Typically, I advise, a lot of people, small entrepreneurs, they're going to need PayPal or a credit card machine. And I would honestly, they might ask for terms, which is net 30. I would actually say to those accounts, if they hit a certain dollar minimum, then we would grant them terms. So let's say they say, okay, once you hit $1,000 and you buy and we reorder and you've hit $1,000 in product, then I'll take your trade references. They'll call the banks and maybe we'll extend to net 30 and pay in 30 days. So that would be my advice there. When it comes to corporate accounts, you're not going to have that leeway and they're going to expect terms.
Okay. So we talked about margin, the terms that you need, how to kind of come up with your profit and loss. These are all, basic things that a startup would definitely have to do. Have you come across a form or a template that people can use to figure this stuff out? Do you know of any resources that are out there? You just plug it into your spreadsheet, but.
Honestly, I just pull out an Excel grid and I would just, plug in those numbers. Like I would create headers. So, but I've been doing it now, I think, over 10 years, at least 11 years, sales and marketing. So I just probably just do it naturally, just ask those questions. I honestly don't. The template that I would probably use now is what I basically do is, for example, I've now worked with companies where I'm really looking at our overall inventory, our overall what's working, what's selling, and how to sell more, how to move more products. So that's actually a different sales role than like an entrepreneur that's just starting and would need to be from scratch.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then for the next level of business. So you're now in the stores. You have a lot of product. What do you do to move product?
Okay, yeah. So that's really what I do right now, and what for example, what I would do is I would look on a weekly basis. Okay, what is that account selling? Now, if it's a small retailer, you're not going to need to look weekly, and you're going to maybe look at reorder patterns, and you are going to say, call them and go, can I do an inventory of your shelf? When it's a larger account or a department store, they should be able to send you sales on a weekly basis. So it's your job as a sales manager to go on a weekly basis, wow, Amazon or Nordstrom's or Costco or Target, they sold 1,000 copies this week of this particular book. That's really great. That would mean that I need to make sure our inventory can handle the next 6 weeks of sales. So the job that I do now is more looking at that and maybe shooting an email to the production team and to the CEO and people who are in charge of making the product and saying, hey, I'm noticing this spike in sales. And these are the reasons. We got coverage in Elle magazine. We got coverage in Domino. It all helps to elevate the sales. So I would say a great sales manager, we are continually like, for example, when my marketing team sends me an email that 12 Studios is being featured in Domino, I will shoot that out to my customers and say, look at this great masala sheeting has been featured in Domino. And lo and behold, we'll get orders for that masala sheeting.
Okay, yeah, let me ask you about that because, you know, how important of a role do you feel like marketing and PR is? Do you see a huge spike in sales every time somebody is featured with your product? When do you see like the biggest spike? Can you share any of that?
Again, it just depends on the media. Some things you think, oh my gosh, yes, they're on the Today Show and we're going to sell like gangbusters. Mm-hmm. Sometimes and sometimes not. You know, okay. It's like PR and marketing is really hit and miss. Yes, People magazine does help, and Elle magazine does help, but I think it's more about it all together.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that Christiane and Dwell Studio is so brilliant at is a real holistic approach. It's like they not only are on the Today Show, our zebra pillows were there, but they do stuff with Twitter and with Facebook and Domino and really across all market channels so that social media and print media and as well as visual media are all working together.
Okay. About in the market, the baby market and children's market specifically, that you need a strong, the brand needs to be trusted and the customers need to feel really safe. So, you know, I think you were talking to me a little bit about testers, earlier and, but in a different regard. Like if you have a prototype, you can call local boutiques and see if they'll test out your product. Do you remember talking about that? Am I totally off base here?
No, I think that when it comes to the, I mean, Amazon's a really good example of a retailer. When you go on Amazon, you read those reviews as
right.
Like the high chairs and the pacifiers or whatever you're going to buy. Those are really, really important. And so, yes, if you, for example, Amazon is a marketplace that a lot of people can sell almost anything these days. But so you would approach Amazon in the category and find out how to be part of, they have all those reviewers. So you might send 7 to 10 of your product to those reviewers so that they can put a review online of your particular product. Because definitely in the mom world, reviews mean everything. Now, Dwell Studio is a trusted brand, so people know that all of our dyes are safe and our toys are lead-free and non-toxic, So the nice thing is when you sell a brand, mom is already trusting you. But if you're an untested brand, then it will be absolutely important for you to get those mommy bloggers and the testers out there. I would even say, approach places like babycenter.com and really ask them to review your product.
So would they be asking, who would they be asking at Baby Center? Would they just look for people who review products and contact them individually and say, could you review this? Or who would they reach out to? Do you have any idea?
An editor.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want a salesperson or a buyer, but you'd want an editor, like a person who really can review it and write well and give you an honest opinion. And I would say that that's actually the first approach. So like if you already had positive reviews from several mommy bloggers and online like places that are resource centers for mom, I think, and you had reviews from a doctor, if it was one of those types of products, or a nurse practitioner, I think you're going to be just, again, armed better as you go into those retailers of why they should carry your product.
Okay. Okay. So, I want to ask you a little bit, since we're kind of also on the marketing, arena, like, what trade shows have you found to be really good venues?
Okay. So in the book world, I mean, you have to go to Book Expo in, New York, and in the baby world, ABC, which is in Kentucky this year and was in last year, and it has been in Las Vegas. And obviously the gift shows are great in New York. Atlanta is a great gift show. It brings people from all over, and also has a high concentration of the South. So I think that, again, it depends, but let's say you're doing a very regional product, then you're going to want to go to a regional gift show. If you're doing more of a national product, you will want to go to New York or Atlanta. And then, or if it's a Toy Fair is fantastic. That's a great show. So it just really will depend on the product that you're making.
So what is the best way for people to find a reputable sales rep?
I think that trade shows are really great to go, and I would say before you invest the money and get a booth and do all of that, because they're extremely expensive, is get yourself a plane ticket and go to a show and walk it first. See what it is, what the competition is. I mean, how are you going to get a badge? You usually have to be, have some kind of resale license, or have a friend in the industry. I mean, you'll figure it out, and you'll go, and you would then look at the different rep groups. So like rep groups will have actual booths, and where they'll carry all these different lines. And you might decide, let's say you do jewelry, you might decide the best approach for you is to have this rep group who does the Northeast sell your jewelry, because it makes sense. It looks very similar. You would show them the jewelry that you make, and you'd sit down and have a meeting, and then you guys would work out like what their commission rate would be and what trade shows they do, and then you'd have an agreement with them. And so then you would know that in the Northeast, because you live in California, you never have to go look at those boutiques. You have some reps doing that. And you then decided that California, you want to keep in-house. And that's and you want to keep corporate in-house, and you want to maybe do the Pacific Northwest yourself because you go up there as well. But maybe the Northeast is where you think you're going to be really strong. And then you move on to other areas in the country.
Okay, so then also, what is like a standard commission rate? What should somebody expect to pay a sales rep?
15% on small mom and boutiques off of the net sales, and you don't have to pay them until you get paid. That's really important.
Okay.
And so then once your bill is paid, then you pay them. So like, they don't give you a purchase order and you pay them. It's when you've shipped the product and you've gotten actually receivement of payment from the store, that's when they get their commissions.
Okay.
And then it's negotiable for corporate accounts. It can, under 10, 7.5, even as low as 5%, depending on the volume.
Right. So the more volume, the less percentage.
Yes, because usually it also means the store wants to make more margin. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about just going into a baby store and asking them, I think you told me this before, asking them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What sales reps they like to work with.
Yeah, that's also great. Like, I think, let's say you decide, okay, I want to be more of the production, the design, the marketing. My talents are in PR. And I don't really want to do the sales side. I'm not interested in talking to these customers and stuff. Yeah, I would definitely just go into those stores and say, who do you guys like to work with? I have this line. Do you have any suggestions of somebody I can approach in this area? They'll tell you those stores, reps are great. I mean, the fact is that stores are loyal to their reps. If they do a great job, and they want to work with those reps.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Angela. I appreciate you sharing all of your experience and your story. I think anyone with a product trying to get into retail stores gained valuable information from this interview, so I appreciate it. And if people have questions and want to reach out to you, they can contact me at Rachel, R-A-C-H-E-L, at bestmomproducts.com. And for our viewers and listeners, if you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our monthly newsletter so we can make you aware of future interviews. I promise I won't spam you. And if you're interested in hearing from specific founders, want to be interviewed, or interested in sponsoring, please contact me. Thank you, and thanks again, Angela.